Hi, and welcome back to the Locker Around the Clock for the Divisional Round. It's here. We got 4 games on the slate. We got Saturday and Sunday football for one last time for the season. For the playoffs, anyway. We got the Divisional Round. We got Seattle on Saturday and Atlanta. Great matchup. We got the Patriots at night. We got, well, you know the whole schedule. But before we get started, before we get to the games, I'd like to put a shout out to my fellow Raider Nation out there. Look, folks. Yes, the season ended on a really bad note for us. Derek Carr breaking his leg. Who would have thought it would have affected the defense as well as the rest of the team? I mean, look, we went 12-4, and I'll tell you right now, in 14 years that I've been, in the last 14 years, I've been watching the Raiders since 1978. But in the last 14 years, 10 of those years, we were between like 4-12, 5-11, 6-10. We just couldn't. I mean, 8-8 last year was such a great year. 12-4 this year, we should be so proud. And we were so blessed to have such a good year. Fun, exciting, competitive games to watch. And unfortunately, the Raiders are one of those teams that when something weird is going to happen, it happens to them. The tuck, the holy roller, the immaculate reception, the strangest things have happened. You know what I'm saying? And in the week that 3 players break their leg, one of them had to be ours, our MVP, Derek Carr. But you know what? It happened, and we have so much to look forward to next year. Thank you, Jack Del Rio, for the year that we had. Thank you, Derek Carr, for the year you gave us. Thank you, Oakland, for doing what you did this year and providing us a fascinating, magical year that we can hang our hats on and look forward to next year being an even better one. Thank you, Raider Nation. Thank you, Oakland Raiders. And I hope I'm saying Oakland Raiders for the next years, 10, 20, 30 years to come. Anyway, let's get to the games. On Saturday, we had the 4 o'clock lock. We got Seattle going to Atlanta. They're going to fly into Atlanta for the Battle of the Birds. Seattle in this game is getting 4 points. 4.5 points, rather. You got Dan Quinn. You got the Pete Carroll story going on. You got, Julio Jones. You have Sherman. It's going to be a great game. And I tell you what, the last game was a great game in the playoffs between these two, which Matt Ryan actually got the better of by the Matt Bryant kick. But you know what? This game here, Seattle's coming in on a bit of a roll. They finally got the running game going last week, albeit it was at home against the Detroit Lions. Not something to write home about, but they got something going and they played. They have momentum and they're warmed up. Atlanta with the week off, I don't know. I know Matt Ryan had a tremendous season. He was great this year. But I really have a funny feeling that Seattle's going to come into this game. And Seattle could be one of those teams that we see in the Super Bowl this year. They click. They get hot at the right time. If they can get this game under their belt, and I think they are. They got the running game going last week with Thomas Rawls. He came back and he looks good. He looks like the Thomas Rawls we saw last year. Russell Wilson's got the knee brace off. He's playing well. But I think the X factor in this game is going to be C.J. Prosise. He is like the Tyreek Hill, if you will, of the Seattle Seahawks. We saw what he did before he got injured. He's back. He practiced full. He's healthy. And I think this is going to be a deciding factor in this game along with the defense of the Seattle Seahawks. And I know Atlanta's been playing well. They've been playing actually very good defense, and that's all thanks to Dan Quinn. But I look for this game to be a very tight one. I look for Seattle to pull this out, at least to cover the 4.5. Take the Seattle Seahawks plus the 4.5. That's the 4 o'clock lock. On to the 8 o'clock lock. We got the Houston Texans making the trip with all of the parts from New England from years past on board going into New England. Now, this game, Brock Osweiler, if I had a choice of any quarterback in the world, Brock Osweiler probably wouldn't even be on the list, even if I had a list as long that went back to quarterbacks like Jamarcus Russell at this point. But you know what? They have the number 1 defense, and that poses a problem, I believe, for the Patriots. The Patriots are given 16 points in this game. I don't know if they're ready to give 16 points to a team like Houston who has an incredible defense. They get the turnovers. They make things happen. They do have a decent running game. And if Osweiler can kind of keep himself in check like he did with Denver, get some screen passes, get Hopkins going, they can stay on the field. I think the defense gets the turnovers and keeps Brady off the field. The special teams do some work like they did in the past. 16 points is a lot of points to cover. I love the Houston Texans in this game. They may not win it outright, but Vince will fork. And when there's a fork, if there's a will, there's a fork. And look, Will Fork is on this team. It's possibly his last year. He is still a great player. We saw him last week. We saw him over the season. And this game means something to him. Bill Bradley, he's got this game under control in his mind. He knows what's going on with the Patriots. And I think in this game, and with the big spotlight, the way the Texans dominated the Raiders last week, and I'll tell you what, I mean, the Raiders did help them. Connor Cook didn't really hurt their defense much, if you know what I'm saying. But I really, really think, and this is an opinion, this is what I would say is my thought process for the game, not necessarily my lock, but my opinion. I'm giving you them all opinions or a lock on these games, and the opinion is to take the Houston Texans in the 16. I think they keep it close. I would love nothing more than to see them come in and rain on a New England parade, so to speak. But take the Houston Texans, take the 16 points. On to the Sunday games. We got the 1 o'clock lock, and this is the game I'm really looking forward to. Pittsburgh on the road with Big Ben, and when the weather is bad, Big Ben is bad too. They're going into Kansas City in a game that's probably going to be freezing rain, cold conditions, windy, rainy, just real crap coming down. And Pittsburgh, for whatever reason, seems to excel in those games. Not to mention they have Le'Veon Bell and a defense that's been playing much better than they did in the beginning of the season. And if you remember, Pittsburgh put a big pasting on Kansas City in the beginning of the season, in an early couple weeks. Now this game, the total in this game is what we're looking at. The total in this game is 44. Kansas City against Denver, I think they just struck when the iron was hot, and it was in Kansas City. They played out of their minds, and they put up a ton of points. Travis 51st dates. Kelsey just went nuts. He ran for 150-something yards, a touchdown. I don't see that happening here against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is capable of controlling the ball. They have Le'Veon Bell to thank for it. Le'Veon Bell, they got Brown. They got some really solid offensive weapons here. And like I said, their defense is coming around. As a matter of fact, I think their defense, even though Kansas City's at home, and I'm going to give the edge on special teams to Kansas City, I think the defense for Pittsburgh is going to be able to step this up. I know the running game is definitely going to step up. I look for Pittsburgh to control this game, but either way, it's going to be a low-scoring affair. I can see Pittsburgh winning this 27-10, maybe even 17-10. I see Pittsburgh winning it. I don't like that so much as I like the total going under the 44. That is the 1 o'clock lock, under the 44 in Pittsburgh, Kansas City. On to the 4 o'clock lock. And I say lock because this is the game that's going to put us at 3-0 for the weekend. Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers going into Dallas. Dallas having the week off. They're at home. And we've seen Dallas collapse in the past. Their first playoff game usually is always a little rough. But this is a different Dallas team. Ezekiel Elliott, Des Bryant, I mean, they've been playing great. Dak Prescott, we know the story. I'm not going to go through it. I like in this game the total. You got Green Bay coming in playing a game that's probably tropical compared to what they played last week. And we saw what Aaron Rodgers did in the freezing cold against the Giants team that has one of the best defenses in the league. They beat up on Dallas the last couple times and held them to a minimum amount of points. And to be honest with you, if the Giants had any kind of a running game last week, I think they might have been able to take care of business by putting up some points early on Green Bay, which they didn't, thanks to some drop balls. Look, Green Bay is going into this game high-powered offense. Dallas is not that great on the back end, and Dallas has an high-powered offense with a great running game in which Green Bay would not be able to stop because they're going to take over with Ezekiel Elliott. Had a week to rest. He has one of the best offensive lines to run through. The total in this game is what we're looking at. The total in this game is 52.5. This could be an easy shootout, 33-31 kind of game. I love the total going over the 52.5 in this game. That is the 4 o'clock lock. Let's recap. 4 o'clock lock on Saturday. I love Seattle getting the 4.5. My opinion on Houston is to take them in the points, and hopefully we're going to pray for one of those Houston smackdowns on defense, and I would love nothing more than to watch these smug Patriot fans curl back into their cave for another season. On to the Sunday lock. The 1 o'clock lock, Pittsburgh, Kansas City. under the 44 and the 4 o'clock lock over the 52.5 in Green Bay, Dallas. Until we go 3-0 and we go into the AFC NFC Championship game next week, take it to the book, take it to the bank, and as always, you take it ace.